Welcome back to the Crash Course podcast. My name is CraigCrash Collins, joined as always this week by Andy Bernard of Cornell University. Yes, you see the Cornell.
Red.
You see the Cornell. It just makes me think of like when Dwight is trying to get under Andy's skin, and so he wears like the big red. He wears the Cornell sweatshirt. And he brings out the Cornell bobblehead, and Andy starts freaking out. He's like, "That's a bobble, big red bear. That is a bobble, big red bear." That's what it makes me think of right now. And now I feel like I need to get you a Cornell bobblehead. But yes, we are here to talk about the greatest spectacle in racing that took place this past Sunday. So whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, if you're on YouTube, welcome in. We're going to be talking all things Indy 500. We're going to give you a recap and a breakdown of the race, give our thoughts there, a little bit of a conversation on Scott Dixon, and then we're going to also give kind of a preview of the it's tough to say second half because we've literally only had 6 races, and it's easy to forget after you've had the gauntlet that the month of May is, but it is kind of the halfway point of the season in the sense that like it's kind of, you can break the season very easily up into 2 parts, the pre-Indy 500 and post-Indy 500. And now it's just kind of more or less the slog to the end of the year.
We're now in the part of the season where the ratings are going to go really high because you have all the people that are coming off the excitement of the Indy 500. They're like, yeah, I'm going to watch IndyCar for the rest of the season. And then they'll watch the next 2 races and they'll move on with their lives. That's just kind of, that's the cycle that we always go through.
On that note, like, do you think, because I know in the past they used to go from the Indy 500 to Texas, and I
wish
don't
they still did that.
I was gonna say I don't know how the ratings were then because it's hard to compare because the series was still kind of coming back together after all, the Berger back with Cart and all that kind of stuff. So like I'd be interested to like compare notes between like what the ratings were back then, like how much better or worse they were when that was still the case, and then kind of compare it and size it up to what it would be now when you're going to Detroit or when you're going to wherever afterwards. And I understand like part of it's, I would imagine, because of proximity, you're going right from Indiana to Detroit as opposed to from Indiana to Texas. But at the same time, I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, you know what? There's really only 4 ovals on the schedule. Mm-hmm. There's Indianapolis, obviously. There's Texas. And we're half done because all we have left is Gateway and then 2 races at Iowa. And so it begs the question, like, should we have like at least maybe one more oval and put it right after
Richmond.
The Indy 500? I would love Richmond. I love when they used to race at Richmond. That would be a good one. I mean, it's making me think of back in the day when they used to race at like Dover. Like they could go there. I mean, I know those are, obviously not super close to Indy, but I know they used to race at Kentucky. Chicagoland, I know, is kind of not a thing anymore, but like that's an idea. Is that even
a thing for NASCAR?
No, I don't think so.
I went there for a NASCAR race.
I've been there for an IndyCar race. I think Buddy Rice won that one. My dad and I went, and I think unless that was the Kansas race, but Kansas would be another good one.
I do know that IndyCar drivers are wanting fewer like super ovals or super speedways for these cars. So,
and I can understand that, but
like Texas is their limit. I'm even thinking like, man, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire's a good one. What would like a Martinsville night race for IndyCar look like? Would that be to
Martinsville? Yeah,
that would be a really.
I don't know how good passing it would be there, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, but like, also you can make that argument for like how much passing are you doing at like
Indianapolis,
right? Well, Indianapolis, or even like on some of the road courses where like, yeah, there's passing that gets done, but it's not super exciting because I feel like it takes a long, like when it happens, it's awesome, but it doesn't feel like it happens often enough to like maintain that excitement of what you would have like on an oval. So like, if you found a way to like get to Kansas, if you could go to Martinsville, I'm a big advocate of Richmond. Can we just spend the rest of the podcast naming off ovals we want to see IndyCar go to? Because that's kind of what I want to see. And I think that would be really good to go to, at least one more obviously you're going to eventually go back to street and road courses. Eventually you can't just be like, let's backlog the season with like 5 ovals and try to keep up the excitement from the Indy 500.
What was the one that they went to in Japan? The one that Danica won?
Twin Ring Motegi. I think that was that?
That was an oval.
Right, it was an oval, but I couldn't remember that was an official race, so like wasn't an exhibition, right? Okay,
it was an official race.
I couldn't remember.
It counted as her one IndyCar career victory, and it was like right before the Indy 500.
Okay, I'm getting that confused with NASCAR, because NASCAR used to race an exhibition race at Twin Ring Motegi, and I was like, was it IndyCar or NASCAR that had the exhibition race there? But yeah,
if we want to look at new, oh wait, they've already done it. Never mind. I was going to say COTA. Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Austin, Texas.
Right.
F1 races there. Colton Herta won the one there.
Right, but that's a road course though.
Yeah, I was thinking if we're going to talk about other courses like road courses, I would want that one. But
well, as a former NASCAR fan, well, all right. As a former NASCAR fan, I definitely would be an advocate of
Watkins Glen,
Sonoma.
I still call it Sears Point.
Yeah. And then you've got, I'm trying to think, because I don't know a whole lot of other road courses that like come to mind immediately. I know. Yeah,
those Mexico City one that Xfinity does. That's an oval.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a fun one because one of your premier drivers is Pato O'Ward.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think that like I said, I know you can't, like, the ratings drop is going to happen eventually, but I think doing one more oval before going away from it. Homestead.
Take him to Homestead.
Yeah. Cause dude, now my brain's all hung up on Richmond still.
See, what do they need to do? They need to do a double header weekend. You got F1 on the street circuit in Miami, and you've got IndyCar at Homestead.
Ooh, there you go. Speaking of F1, did you see the article that was like Max Verstappen says he's not going to race?
He'll never race the Indy 500 because he doesn't want to risk his life.
Yeah, I was like, I don't quite understand that, because I was like, IndyCar?
Tell that to the former F1 driver that just won this weekend.
Yeah.
Literally, also, Marcus Ericsson was on the first season of Drive to Survive.
Also, like, I would say, obviously racing is still highly dangerous, but like, it's also
any track, it doesn't matter.
The safest it's ever been, I feel like.
Look, Colton Herta just flipped his car upside down a couple days ago and walked away. He had a crappy car on Sunday, but he still walked away.
Right. Well, and it would have, because it was kind of shades for me of like what happened with Marco Andretti a few years ago in the 500, but at the same time,
or Scott Dixon,
yeah. Like, and obviously those are all scary wrecks. Bad things can happen. But I don't know. I seem like just a weird thing to be like, yeah, don't want to risk my life. Why would I do? It's like, you're racing, bro. Like, no matter where you go. Romain Grosjean
I feel like there's been more drivers that have died in Formula One than IndyCar.
Maybe. So going off of that, the grim outlook of what racing can be sometimes, let's go ahead. Speaking of former F1 drivers, and let's recap the Indy 500. Let's get into it here, and talk about the race on Sunday. Obviously fastest field, fastest front row. Really exciting to see what happened. It was fast race, yeah, under 3 hours, which is always nice. Dixon and Palou trade the lead early on. They were trying obviously for the fuel strategy thing. They were, trading the lead there.
It got boring in person, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I bet.
Come on. Can somebody just get up there and pressure these two guys and force them to drive?
And you thought it was going to be Rinus VeeKay. They even said in the broadcast, like, he's going to do whatever he can to break that up. And lo and behold, unfortunately, he tried. And unfortunately, it did not work out. He gets into a crash in turn 2 on lap 38. On lap 69, in pretty much the same area, Kyle Eilert crashes in turn 3 during green flag pit cycle. Alex Palou forced to pit while the pits were closed due to low fuel. He breaks up what he had with he and Dixon between as far as like dominating the front. And honestly, obviously, you know, it, like you said, it was boring to watch, but like also at the same time, like what Palou and Dixon were doing was working early on for those two. And we were talking a little bit before we started the broadcast about how like, it was kind of just an unfortunate thing. Like Palou and Dixon both had cars to win if it weren't for their respective issues. And I don't know. I mean, I guess there's always, no matter what,
we'll get to Dixon's here in a minute, but Palou's was bad luck. Dixon's was a lapse in
judgment,
memory, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's just the fact that, like, on the one hand, like,
just say it was a mistake.
He had like Palou had like maybe a split second, if anything, to make the decision to stay out. But it's also a thing like, I don't know how.
That's also on his crew though too. His spotter should have been like, should have said there was a wreck, and then he aborts from pit road.
Yeah, I mean, that's true too. I guess he could have. There should be like a spotter or somebody else like abort, and he can like.
They know the rules. They know,
right?
Just like we can say, Takuma Sato knew he was supposed to go down into the cool down lane after qualifying.
Right. I don't know. Maybe it's because like, what's more dangerous, him turning back into traffic?
I don't think there was anybody really around him.
Well, but I'm just saying in theory, like what do you want to do there? I mean, I know it doesn't happen in this instance, but I don't know. I guess it might just be coming from a place of like, man, that stinks that it ruined Palou's day that early or kind of messed it up to a pretty significant extent. But I don't know. I don't know what you would do to change that, but it just kind of stinks. But like I said, I mean, I wish there was some sort of like, kind of like the rule in football where like if you get forced out of bounds, you have to make an effort to get back in. And if you do, then it's not a penalty. Like, I think that should be like, if you like race control should have the liberty to be like, I mean, what else was he supposed to do? Just turn back into traffic. And I mean, it may still have resulted in the same thing, but, and I guess at the end of the day, they do have the right to make that call. But I think in those instances, it's all mostly by the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was some other things that went into account on it too. It wasn't just, but bad luck there, but it's not like he, came tearing through the field afterwards.
That's true too. Yeah.
Either. So
that's fair. And also it happened at lap 69, which you have 130 laps to rectify that. So
yeah.
Lap 106, Fat John unfortunately exits the race. He has a crash in turn 2. Turn 2 was a big problem all day. Lots of great racing though up front between Scott Dixon, Connor Daly, Pato O'Ward, Santino Ferrucci. Santino.
Great day.
Yeah. Santino Ferrucci, like I love the limo tent on the car. That's pretty cool. And he was just fun to watch. I was like, man, I wish, because wasn't that his only race?
His only race?
Yeah. I was like, man, I wish he could race a little bit more. Hopefully, maybe that's a good audition if he wants, because for possibly next year or something like that.
I'll tell you this: as bad of luck as Alex Palou had with these wrecks and timing with pits, Connor Daly got that luck. Connor Daly timed his pitting perfectly and was already out and had just pitted each with these last 2 wrecks. And that's what really he gained so much track position from that. It was unbelievable. And because Alex Palou was in the back, he and Scott Dixon worked together for a little while as well, trading back and forth with the lead.
So at lap 152, Scott McLaughlin crashes in turn 3, nearly collects Ed Carpenter in the process. That was pretty wild. Lap 175, we alluded to it a little bit earlier. Scott Dixon caught for speeding on pit road, has to serve a drive-through penalty. He did lead 95 laps and finished 21st. We'll get to more on Dixon here in a little bit, but
because my buddy that I was with, he said, I said, Scott Dixon's going to run away with this thing. Scott Dixon is going to win this race. He said I think you're right. The only thing that will cause him to not win this race is a screw up on pit road. And I said, and that doesn't happen often for him. And that happened last year where they stalled the car on pit road. So don't expect that to happen. Sure enough, the penalty caught him. And it was unbelievable. I mean, even Scott Dixon was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, that's one where like, you're going to be losing sleep over it.
My buddy said this. He brought up a good point. So we always had the Tony Kanaan curse at IMS. Scott Dixon's already won one, but he's always had such good cars, and something creeps up and bites him and prevents him from winning the race. Are we now looking at the Scott Dixon curse?
Yeah, I mean, there's a good case for it because
the last 2 years, pit road issues took him out of contention.
Right. I mean, given the fact that he's won so many poles and stuff like that, and like had cars,
he broke the record in this race for the most laps led in an Indy 500 career.
Well, and I mean, didn't he break? Wasn't the record he broke Mario Andretti's?
No,
or it was Unser, but Andretti's up there, and I mean that's literally
so
kind
Scott
of
Dixon
the meme
has led the most laps in Indy 500 history.
Yeah,
from all of his starts.
Yeah,
and to only have one win, got to be looking at a Scott Dixon curse.
Right. I mean, and that's literally the meme at the racetrack, or it was when I was growing up going to the Speedway, was Mario slowing down. Like that was so, and that's what's kind of the thing that's going to follow Dixon a little bit as well. But yeah, tough break for him, definitely. And it's funny, I had actually had the opposite thought process where I was like, okay, something's going to go wrong, because it always has in some way, shape, or form. Like is either going to get passed or on the last lap or something, or something's going to happen to ruin his day. And lo and behold, it did. 18 laps to go. Marcus Ericsson passes Felix Rosenqvist while green flag stops cycle through. He takes over the lead, had like a 3-second advantage, and so it looked like Marcus Ericsson was going to run away with things. But then with 6 laps to go, Jimmy Johnson crashes in turn 2.
All but one of the wrecks happened in the exact same spot.
Right.
When we were walking back to the car, we walked by turn 2, and that area on the wall was completely black. Totally scuffed, because that's where everybody was hitting, in the same area.
Right. And so that brings out the red flag. Always a good job by IndyCar to make sure that happens. Needs to happen. They need to adopt the green, white, checkered. They need to. See, I used to think that too. I used to think the green, white, checkered was good, and I think it's good for NASCAR. I just don't really, I like the way IndyCar does it too. And I've come around from this. Our buddy Spencer Frady actually brought me around on this. Just the fact that, at the end of the day, the race should, if it's 500 miles, it should be 500 miles. You know what I mean? So if the race ends under caution, like I like the idea of like, it's 6 laps to go. Let's put the red flag out there. And try and give us a 2-lap shootout. I like that idea, because that's essentially what it ended up being. It was a green, white, checkered. But if a caution comes out on lap 199, like we don't need to
Oh no, but that's because they've already taken the white flag.
Okay, so I guess the better example would be if it happened at lap 198. So like if it happens at 198, like I'm not in favor of like, okay, let's drag this out for another, I don't know. I just
it's free racing.
It is.
And it adds another dimension to the strategy. If you think that could potentially happen, how do you manage your strategy to make sure you don't run out of fuel if that happens? Yeah. I just think it adds another dimension, and it would just be,
if they were to adopt it, the only way I'd be in favor of it, and I mean, I obviously hold no power, but my thought process on it would just be like, okay, once we try it once. If we can't end it under,
maybe you adopt it only for the Indy 500, just because you want to make sure that you try to get that one to end under green as much as possible.
NASCAR literally will go into like triple overtime.
Yeah, but that typically only happens at places like Daytona and Talladega.
That's fair. So that basically makes it a shootout with 2 to go. Ericsson,
and in these situations, this is another one I would throw in there. Restarts need to be double file.
I mean,
all restarts for the Indy 500 need to be double file. If you're going to start the race 3 wide, restarts need to be at least 2 wide.
I need to be make it 3 wide for the restart. I mean, I'd be.
Oh, that would be too tough. Trying to bunch all that up.
Don't they? I know this is obviously way different, but don't they at like the little 500 in Anderson? Don't they literally do that? Don't they go 3 wide after every restart?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be an idea. But yeah, Ericsson basically all over the place to try to prevent Award from drafting. Literally, almost like going lower than.
It was a move. It's a legal move called the Dragon. And that's what he did.
I heard the reference to the Dragon, but I had no idea what it meant. I won't lie. I was like, what is this?
Because he was weaving around. It looked like a dragon, like how you imagine like a Chinese dragon flying.
That makes sense. But yeah, Award tries to go on the high side on the last lap, but can't make the pass.
He should have just stuck it there.
Yeah. And then
really
Sage Karam crashes to bring out the yellow, giving Marcus Ericsson the victory. So there you have it. Marcus Ericsson wins the 106th Indianapolis 500. Pato Award is second. Tony Kanaan third. Felix Rosenquist and Alexander Rossi round out the top 5. Connor Daly was 6th. Elio Castroneves was 7th. B. Scott's picks, reflecting on those. He technically got Rookie of the Year right. Jimmy Johnson. Rookie of the Year right. Jimmy Johnson finishes 28th. He's Rookie of the Year.
He wasn't even the best finishing rookie or the highest qualifying rookie.
B. Scott's dark horse was Ed Carpenter. He finished 19th. And B. Scott's winning pick was Alex Palou. He finished 9th.
So I guess Alex Palou did make his way back up through the field to grab a top 10 finish.
Slowly, not quickly enough. Yeah.
So I will tell you this. It looked like it was nearly impossible to pass. It was a very hard passing. I don't know why some years it can be just like absolute action packed, lots of passing. And in a year like this year where it's like, oh, it's hard to close on a driver on the car in front of you. It's hard to pass them. Like it just seemed like there just was not a lot of passing unless it was the top 2 drivers and they were working with each other, allowing each other to go back and forth to conserve fuel. Otherwise, it just seemed like passing was at a premium. And then you got drivers like Alex Palou, who slowly worked his way back up through the field. Elio Castroneves had a strong but quiet day, quietly worked his way up to finish 7th. And yeah, it just felt like passing was at a major premium, which would be why you didn't see a lot of drivers taking those opportunities under caution to go to pit road, because track position was so valuable, more so than in the past. In the past, you'd be like, yeah, I want the fresh tires and the fuel because I can go. But now it's like, fresh tires and fuel doesn't matter. I'm not getting back up there if I go down pit road. I need to stay right here.
Well, at the end of the day, your picks did a lot better than mine. My Rookie of the Year was David Malukas. He finished 16th. He was the highest finishing rookie.
Should have been the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, because he had a spectacular qualifying run as well.
Right. Dark horse was Marco Andretti. He was 22nd. Takuma Sato, I think, was in the top.
He was running up there all day, but
he just got cycled through because of pit stops. Takuma Sato finishes 25th. So, I mean, looking at the reaction, first and foremost, heartbreaking race for the fastest front row in history. I mean, you look at it, VK crashes, Dixon and Palou succumbed to pit road violations. That was pretty wonky. I can't remember a 500 where the front row all had like significant issues that took them out of the race. I mean, obviously, you've had front rows. I mean, typically, obviously, front row drivers have had really better success winning, but I can't remember a day where like everything that happened to the front row was notable as far as like Dixon pit road violation, Alex Palou pit road violation, VK crashes. Like it seemed like an issue happened to all 3 of your like major front row drivers. Obviously, good to see the track back at full capacity. I saw online there was some complaints about too many commercials. As someone who watched the race on Peacock, I think there was. I mean, I always think there's too much commercials in the sense that, like, oh, come on, like if it's within the last 50 laps, like let's just stay on the channel. But other than that, I didn't think it was too bad. I didn't think it was too egregious.
I don't know if they did this, but most places they'll do the commercial in one box and they'll keep that on the race in the other.
At least Peacock did not do that. So I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know
That's rough.
If NBC did it, but Peacock.
I'll tell you, people that are complaining about the commercials, like I said, not much passing. You didn't miss much.
Yeah.
And if something did happen, they broke back in. So don't worry.
And then just overall fun race to watch. Happy we were blessed with the red flag and shootout at the end. I was hoping TK had more for Ericsson and an award, but hopefully he has one more May in him. Jimmy Johnson did not deserve to win Rookie of the Year. Like I said, I mean,
that was a popularity contest.
Well, right, but
because he was the most talked about rookie outside of Fat John.
But like the thing is too, is that like, heck, I would have been almost okay with Romain Grosjean because I mean, if you're going to give it to somebody who crashed anyway,
give it to the guy that qualified the highest.
Right. So yeah, I was like,
of all the rookies,
like I know, because like the thing I can't wrap my mind around is like, yeah, like I could, if Jimmy Johnson had been in contention. Like led more than one lap, I would have been maybe, I mean, not to say, okay, well, if he would have 2 laps, we should have given it to him. But like, if he had led like, a decent chunk of the race, like maybe 15, 20 laps, if he had
been running up in the top 10. Even.
Right. He wasn't a factor. He was never
he was at the back of the pack.
And on a day where the other 4 Chip Ganassi drivers were at least at some point in the race in contention and strong candidates to win. Obviously one did win, one finished third, was up there with a chance. The other 2 traded the lead for the first, 75% of the race. So like everybody else at Chip Ganassi, like you had the over all the other rookies, you and Grosjean had the more superior power and did not do anything with it. So right. It's odd. I mean, like I said, David Malukas should have won it.
Well, I feel like even Fat John even ran up he ran up closer to the front of the pack than Jimmy did.
Yeah.
Before
it wasn't like
John wrecked.
Like heck at that point, do it. I don't know, like. Do it by some sort of points system if you want to really go by, because like there's no reason why other than like you said popularity that Johnson should have won. That was kind of the only that just I don't know. I don't like it just because it's like it'd be one thing if he was actually in contention, but I think by all accounts, like if I'm Jimmy Johnson, like that to win Rookie of the Year that way, like that's a slap in the face. Like that's like, oh, you mean like I still get Rookie of the Year even though I had a disappointing run by my standards and by like what I came into Indy like thinking I could do. So, but like I said, like overall
a participation trophy essentially.
Congrats to Marcus Ericsson for getting the win, second Swede ever to win. Kenny Brack was the last one in 1999. So that was all pretty cool. So yeah, I overall happy with how the race went.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared my thoughts. I thought passing was tough. It was a tough day for passing. I don't know if it was the tire compound this year or the new stuff they put down on the track. I don't know what caused that to be an issue, but it was. Honestly, I was a little disappointed in the race because I don't know why I felt that way. I kind of came away like,
It definitely wasn't as good as it could have been. Like I wasn't necessarily dissatisfied, but
the past few years where you've had down to the last lap, the top 2 drivers are back and forth with each other, and it's just like edge of your seat going nuts. And yeah, I mean, another thing to prove that passing was tough. Most of the time, you see these guys set up passes early down the straights. They make the pass, and it's battle right at the start finish line. Drivers weren't able to make a pass until they were exiting the straightaways. So it was like, man, we're not going to have a run for the start finish line. It's just, I don't know. You could tell early on it was going to be a pretty much single file race. And it was. Even my buddy said this kind of feels like at Daytona when they just kind of file in single file and just ride it out for a while.
Yeah.
And you were just hoping that, so eventually they're going to start making moves. And it's like, it never truly came. I don't know.
A lot of it was a race that really like hammered home like pit strategy. Like that was how you won.
Much.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, it was obvious that, this isn't going to be a passing race. This is going to be a fuel strategy race. And it was like, and when you're in attendance for a fuel strategy race, it's not that exciting. No. I'll be honest with you. Like, yeah, when fuel strategy comes into play and there's other, and the racing is really good, that's great. But when it's just a fuel strategy race, and I mean, there was times in the race, the top 3 drivers, top 4 drivers were running several RPMs higher than the rest of the field, because the rest of the field was just like, yeah, we just want to stretch it out as long as we can. I don't know. I mean, you could audibly hear just how slow some of these cars were going. And then you had a guy like Colton Herta that was just out there basically for a Sunday afternoon drive. It was,
yeah.
Like it was comical how slow he was.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that like it was I mean, I guess I don't know what I expected, but like, and obviously like there was no way they were going to save the car that got into the wreck on carb day, but
no,
it was like it was the fact that the backup car, and like I said, I don't really know what I expected, but was the road course car, because like aren't they like set up like I bet it's not like super easy in 2 days to switch
probably not.
An Indy car from road course.
This is a team that changed. Well, also that may be also a factor. This was a team that changed a motor out in a couple hours on qualifying day.
That's true, but I think it's a little maybe easier to go like from motor 1 to motor 2.
Yeah, but now they go from motor 2 to motor 3.
Yeah, that's also, I didn't think about that, but that's also a factor as well. So, but yeah, so pretty wild there. So one word to describe Marcus Ericsson's Indy 500 win. We did this with Colton Herta when he won the GMR. Speaking of Colton Herta, when he won the GMR Grand Prix, so I thought it'd be fun to do that again for Marcus Ericsson. And my word to describe his win is lucky. Not to take anything away from Ericsson, because like lucky does seem a little harsh just because it's like, oh well, you just lucked into the win, but it's because of how he ended up leading the race at the end. I mean, he was fast all month. He was second on carb day. He was consistently in the top 5 or 10 all month in terms of practice. He qualified 5th. So like, it wasn't like he was trying to make some wacky pit strategy work and went from like 32nd to first. Like he was the car that was deserving of winning. But you look at all 3 of Ericsson's IndyCar wins. They've come after the race was red flagged for a period, and they're all just crazy and drama filled and lucky. We're coming up on the anniversary of his first win, which came at Belle Isle last year. The race was red flagged with 6 to go, like this one was. Will Power was first with a 1.5 second lead on Ericsson. Grosjean crashes. The race is red flagged, and Will Power can't get refired. So Ericsson passes him on pit road and ends up winning the race. And then, of course, IndyCar fans will remember at the Music City Grand Prix, Ericsson collides and goes over the top of Sebastian Bourdais on lap 5.
That's right.
Doesn't sustain catastrophic damage and is able to continue. That race was red flagged as well, but earlier on in the race, and Ericsson climbs back through, holds off Scott Dixon to win. So, I mean, he knows how to win in exciting fashion. And you need a little luck on your side to win the Indy 500. I mean, pit strategy gives him the lead, and he holds off O'Ward and Kanaan to win. So yeah, I'm going with lucky. Like I said, maybe not the most accurate way to describe it, but definitely just like right place, right time. The game is only one word. That's why I went with lucky, but more aptly, it's probably just right place at the right time, is able to take the lead and win off fuel strategy.
Yeah. What word would I use to describe Marcus Ericsson's win? I would have to say lucky as well, just because of how hard it was to pass.
Yeah.
Because if it was just a little bit easier to pass, or if passing was a little bit more possible, I think Pato had the better car, to be honest. Pato was one of the few cars that could actually put pressure on Scott Dixon, on Alex Palou when they were up there running. It was Pato. And I think he had the car. It's just, it was not easy to pass. And I think a little bit better driving strategy from Pato on that at the beginning of that 2-lap shootout, I think Pato would have gotten him. But Who knows? So yeah, I'm going to say lucky as well, just because of the inability or how hard it was to pass.
Now we touched on it earlier. We said we'd get back to it. You mentioned, how Pato O'Ward had a car to compete with Scott Dixon. So let's go ahead and discuss, we have one hot or cold question this week. If you're new to the show, we give it out a take instead of say whether or not it's a hot take or a cold take. And the take here is Scott Dixon will win a second Indy 500. And I'm just laying it out there. I mean, so to start off here, the 2023 Indy 500 will be the 15th race since Dixon won in 2008. 15 years is the longest stretch between wins for a repeat winner. Juan Pablo Montoya won as a rookie in 2000, then won again in 2015.
Put an asterisk on that one. Juan Pablo Montoya won the Indy 500 and then left for Formula One and NASCAR before coming back to run the Indy 500 again.
Right. But I mean, it's still longest stretch.
Yeah.
Scott Dixon became the all-time lap leader, as you mentioned earlier, B. Scott. We talked about his 5 poles last week. He had the pole in 2008, obviously led 115 laps and won. 2015, he led 84 laps, finished 4th. In 2017, he crashed, finished 32nd. That was the scary wreck where he literally went into the fence on the inside.
He flew over Elio.
Yeah. And then in 2021, he led 7 laps, finished 17th. And in 2002, he led 95 laps and finished 21st. He also led the most laps in 2009, 2011, 2020, and 2022. Dixon's been in 20 Indy 500, so he sat on the pole for a fourth of them and has led the most laps in nearly a third of them that he's competed in. And oh, by the way, during that time, he's also won 6 IndyCar titles. So it's not like he's, been one of those drivers that just kind of always be the bridesmaid, but never the bride. It just seems to be this race.
Well, like I've always said, for some people, winning the Indy 500 is it. For Scott Dixon, it's a longer game. It's always been a longer game for him.
Yeah, that's true. But also in Dixon's 20 years at the track, 15 different drivers have won the Indy 500. The only drivers to win multiple races in that span: Castro Neves, his one-time teammate Dario Franchitti. He was the only driver to win multiple 500s for Ganassi. Dan Weldon, who is a front stretch away from still being an only one-time winner. And Takuma Sato, who has won 2 races as well. So, I mean, you could argue that the 2000s into the 2010s into the 2020s, like this stretch of 20-25 years, may be the toughest that it's ever been to, the most competitive fields that we've had. Because, I mean, not to take anything away, I'm sure, when drivers were winning 3 or 4 races in 1940 and 51, those were competitive for the time as well. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I mean, you think about all the different, great drivers we've had during that time. It was, because, I mean, it kind of, for the longest time, I remember when he was at Panther, we talked about it a little bit last week as well. Sam Hornish Jr. won pretty much every race with the Indy 500. And it was only when he moved to Penske that he won. And it kind of seems like the same for Dixon. Not saying he's going to do anything with going to Penske. I'm sure he'll be a Ganassi throughout the rest of his career.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure unless he just, it would take something pretty crazy to happen. But at the same time, I mean, you're with a team that's only won it 5 times. And Dario did, 2/5 of that. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that, there's a driver as decorated as Scott Dixon, who only has 1 500. But like I said, I think it's just the product of how competitive it is, how much more difficult it is to win multiple 500s. Because it's not your only other major example, even if you want to extend it beyond the 20 that Dixon's been in, I mean, if you extend it back to 2000, I mean, Elio's the only one Elio and Dario are the only ones that have won, 3 plus. So it's not like there's it's been pretty much everybody else but Dixon in terms of all the names. I mean, Will Power only has 1. If you want to go to a drive, I mean, I don't think he's been as decorated as Dixon has. Joseph Newgarden has 0. He's been the one battling with Dixon.
I'm done picking Joseph Newgarden in the Indy 500.
He's been another driver that's been as competitive as Dixon over the last 5 or so years. He doesn't have 1. So I think it just shows you how tough the fields are. So I'd love to be wrong, but I'm going to go into the camp of he won't, but also doesn't need to. I know that they were kind of comparing it. I mean, I would love to see him win it. I'm not saying he I mean, I guess I am technically saying he won't by going cold here, but it's not one that I'm not gonna winning 2. I think it gets it's a slippery slope to go down when you start comparing titles and comparing when you go into that ring chasing type of mindset, because Peyton Manning's 2 are way different from Eli Manning's 2. Like,
Right.
are you saying, Drew Brees has 1, and you're saying just because he doesn't tag one on at the end, like Peyton did, that doesn't have as remarkable of a career as Peyton? When you start doing that, because like in the NBA, it was like, well, you have to win 1, and then you win 1, and it's like, actually you have to win 2 and win 3, and the goalpost just keeps getting on further down the road. So like, I don't think there's anyone trying to take anything away from Scott Dixon.
Oh gosh, no.
But I also
he's a historic career.
Right. But I also think that, like, I don't think it takes anything away from him if he doesn't win. I mean, obviously he wants to do it. I'm not trying to say he doesn't want to win it or doesn't have the drive to win it or shouldn't have the drive to win it. I just think that I just think it's going to be too tough. Also, he's what, 41, and the oldest driver to win is 47. So, yeah. I mean, maybe
how long ago was that?
No, that was Elio, because he wasn't Elio 46 or 47.
I'm pretty sure he's only like 40.
I don't think he's the oldest. Maybe he's not the oldest, but yeah, it's 47.
Pretty sure like Foyt was probably the oldest.
Yeah, let me look that up real quick while you answer here.
So I think it's cold as well, just because there's just something seems to not add up for Scott Dixon at the track. He dominates the entire month, is really good at qualifying it, but it just seems there's some sort of bad luck that bites him throughout the race. And you just can't put your finger on it. You're just kind of like, what is it? Why can't he get over that hump?
Al Unser, by the way, 47.
Al Unser. Okay. I knew it was longer back than Elio. So, but yeah, I just think it's cold. I just feel like he's kind of, I don't know. There's just something that he can't get past. But like you said, with Ganassi, you feel like, oh my gosh, they're so freaking dominant all the time. They're winning poles at the 500 all the time. And then to hear that they only won, Ganassi's only won the Indy 500 5 times, and 2 of them were Dario Franchitti. No. One of them was only Dario.
No, 2 of them were Dario. Because Dario won in 2010, 2012. Because I got hung up on that too. But 2007 was in the Canadian Club car when he was with Andretti Autosport. So yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh man, it's literally been his teammate has been taking all the 500s. It's like, no, he took 2 of them. It's been, and really it's only been, now granted, I don't know how much more like of a head start that Penske had on Ganassi, but at the same time, it's since
Penske. Also, you got to realize Rick Mears drove for Penske.
Yeah.
Ganassi wasn't around at the time. I mean, Penske goes,
and that's what I'm saying, because Ganassi's first win was in 2000 with Juan Pablo. So it's literally been Juan Pablo, Scott Dixon's 1, Dario's 2, and then now Ericsson.
And don't forget Dan Weldon.
No, Weldon's 2. Weldon's 2 are both with an iteration of Andretti Autosport. He won in 2005 in the Jim Beam car, and then he won with the William Rass sponsorship. Like I said, a front stretch away from not winning it if J.R. Hildebrand doesn't go high on a lap car and crashes on the last lap. So yeah, I mean, and it's tough to get lost in that because you forget how many drivers have driven, how many
over
Ganassi at one point, because like Franchitti has obviously, Dixon has obviously, Weldon did for a time, and Weldon honestly, it might be more of a Ganassi curse as well, just in the sense that like, didn't Weldon win like 1 or 2 more championships with Ganassi than he did with Andretti? Yeah, I think he won the title in 05, but like I know he won at least 1 or 2 more while in the 10 car. Maybe I'm thinking that stretch with the 10 car was a lot longer than it was, but I know there's a few races where he was up front at the 500 as well and didn't come away with more than 1. So yeah, and I think that just goes to how tough it is to win. I don't think it's that race. Yeah. I don't think it's as easy to win. I mean, think about how long the race has been, and there's only been, maybe
4-time winners.
Or 4-time winners. I think it's
and
like,
look how long it took to get that 4th 4-time winner. And that was a guy that you just felt like he's destined to win 4. He's destined to win.
Won his first 2.
Yeah.
So
it's not easy. It's not an easy race to win. And that's why I keep telling my buddy who's a big Connor Daly fan, it's like, look, he keeps getting better and better every year. He's leading laps. Some of these guys like Connor Daly and Pato O'Ward, they will eventually win it. It may take several tries, but they will both win it at least. They will both win it once. I'm not going to say more than once because that's a tough thing to do.
Oh yeah,
but they will both win it once.
Right. So let's go ahead and hear from our friends of the show as now we pivot to the second half here. First of all, we want to thank Anchor. The Crash Course broadcast is brought to you by Anchor. Looking to start a podcast but don't know where to start? Look no further than Anchor.fm. Anchor allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or mobile device and will redistribute it to other sites such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. On a budget, not only is Anchor completely free of charge, but will also allow you to make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Anchor, it's everything you need in a podcast in one place. Also, the Crash Course podcast is brought to you by Eat Lunch and Board Game, heard weekly on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Wherever podcasts can be heard, board games build bridges. Also, we want to remind you that you can like us on Facebook at 3C Media. Like us, go follow us on Twitter at 3C Media Sports. Go over to the YouTube channel. YouTube has been really doing well lately. So go over there. Also, YouTube, we're going to go on a little bit of a break in June. So you'll want to make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because there will be content, that just mainly goes on the YouTube channel. Will basically be all the ideas that we have that won't necessarily work to make a full podcast, but will be good for just a little segment on the YouTube channel. So make sure you go over there and subscribe 3C Media over there. Also, that content, or at least a sample of that content will be on the TikTok channel. So go over there, 3C Media on both YouTube and TikTok. Remember, we do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/CraigCrash. We do have, make sure to come in, give us your thoughts. We had Rage, who helped us out with a little bit of an audio technical difficulty earlier on in the broadcast. We have Hannah in here as well. So thank you guys all for hopping in. And remember, you can listen to us every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Wherever podcasts can be heard, you can hear the Crash Course podcast. So moving into the second half of the show here, we kind of want to give our outlook for the remainder of the season. Next up is the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix this Sunday. The current point standings, Marcus Ericsson is now the points leader. Indy is a double points race. Pato O'Ward is 13 points back. Alex Palou is 14 points back in third. Will Power, who went into the race with the points lead, is at minus 24 in fourth. Joseph Newgarden is fifth, minus 52. Scott Dixon, you gave me that funny shaking your head look when I said Dixon might be in sixth when, there's a chance. Because when I said Dixon needed to have a good month of May, I was like, there's a chance he could still be sixth. And you kind of were like, Craig, you're at it again with your crazy takes. But here he is, sixth, minus 60. And then Scott McLaughlin, who at one point won the first race of the year and was on the points lead, is now in seventh at minus 64. So biggest story, we want to look at the biggest storylines, as we leave Indianapolis. Mine is going to be, and I thought of a mean one kind of, but I don't want to be too mean to Penske, but I'm going to bring it up in this discussion because I did say the biggest storyline going into the 500 was that Penske had struggled, and that's still happening.
Ooh, yeah.
But I think the main one I want to look at is, can Ericsson maintain his points lead and momentum? Because it seems like, now granted, this is maybe the most momentum any driver will have all season in terms of winning the greatest spectacle in racing. But at the same time, the points have been topsy-turvy all season. Mentioned Penske. Scott McLaughlin had the points lead after the first 2 weeks, had a win. Newgarden took over, the points lead after his win at Long Beach, which was his second straight at the time. And just what a dud of a month for Penske, man. And we talked about how great they are at Indy. And obviously, that doesn't take what when you win like 20% or 20% of the Indy 500s, right? You can have an off month once in a while, but you have McLaughlin crashes, Newgarden finishes 13th, wasn't really a factor. His worst finish in the 500 as a Penske driver. No Penske driver was really a factor at all in either race.
13th is his worst finish.
Yeah, he was 12th last year.
That's still not bad.
Yeah,
if you think about it, if your worst finish is 13th,
yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying is that, like, by Penske standards, just not very good.
Right, by Penske standards. But when you think about it, considering Joseph Newgarden's kind of just seems to have been a non-factor most of the time in the 500.
I forget what
his worst finish to be 13th. That's not that bad.
Oh, no, not at all. I was trying to remember the team because I didn't even think about this. He was with a team before Penske. He was with like Sarah Fisher.
He was with Ed Carpenter.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Alex Palou had the points lead going into Indianapolis. Will Power had the points lead after the GMR Grand Prix. Ericsson is now the 5th driver in 5 races to have the points lead this season. Can he hang on through Detroit, where he won last year, and maintain his momentum? That's the biggest question, because, I mean, if you think about it, I know I probably said this about Pato O'Ward as well coming into the month, in the sense that, like, oh, you come into the month of May, you got off a win. But when you just won the greatest spectacle in racing, you had a good month overall. You're going to a track where you won your first career race in IndyCar last season on the Detroit, at Belle Isle. This may be the most momentum that because, I mean, I don't think we really fully considered Marcus Ericsson as a championship contender, even though he's literally driving for the team that has won
the last two.
Has won the last two with Dixon and Palou. So, but you thought those were going to be the 2 drivers kind of in his way of doing so. And instead, like I said, he's got maybe the most momentum he's had, to do that and be in contention all season and all career. So I'm just interested to see what Ericsson can do with this newfound momentum going into Detroit.
Yeah. So outside of the obvious Penske, can they turn the season back around? For me, it's Arrow McLaren. Can they keep up and get over the hump and win the championship? They are flying high right now. Their best ever finish at the Indy 500 was second with Pato O'Ward. Pato O'Ward just signed a huge extension, and the worst kept secret in IndyCar, most likely, of the signing of Alexander Rossi to Arrow McLaren next season. And also Arrow, that's not official, but it's the worst kept secret. When it's reported Alexander Rossi has signed a new deal.
No, but
we just can't tell you which. He's not allowed to say which team it is. Well, we can rule Andretti out, that's for sure.
Wink, wink.
Because, well, if it was re-signing with Andretti, they can announce that.
Right.
And then also Arrow McLaren is just announced they are opening up a brand new, beautiful, state-of-the-art race shop in the beautiful Whitestown, Indiana. So lots of things looking up for Arrow McLaren. Can they take that publicity, that momentum? They're flying high. Pato O'Ward is really on it. Can they carry that over to the rest of the season? And can Pato O'Ward pick up a couple more victories? I think he can, and win his first IndyCar title and put McLaren back on top of the racing world.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we also put in here who's a driver to watch the rest of the way. And my driver to watch going forward is Pato O'Ward. He won at Barber to kick off May. He was fast all month at Indy. He started 5th and was leading late at the GMR Grand Prix before needing to pit. He also had like a little bit of a minor incident with Felix Rosenquist on track. He was on the podium at both Detroit races last season, including a win at one of them. They go back to the IMS road course later this season. He's been sneaky solid on ovals too throughout his career. Where they have 3 more races on the season, 2 at Iowa and 1 at
he's won at Iowa
Gateway. Yeah,
he was pretty dominant one time at Iowa. So
and he was fired up too after not getting the win. Like, obviously you're going to be when you're that close. Yeah. When you're that close, but I think he also, that gives him another little bit of an extra push and a little bit more drive heading into the rest of the season, where I think he is in great contention, especially when we're like, Award was up there last year too, and we're kind of like
finished 4th last year, right?
In points, I thought he was
second. No, at the 500. I'm
lying. 4th, I think, at the 500. In points, I think he was second, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So I was like, in a situation where we're like, yeah, Marcus Ericsson, we're not sure how much longer you'll be up there. Great job at the 500. I think Pato O'Ward's a driver that, like, going the rest of the season is one to watch for, as far as, driver to potentially be, like you said, get that championship for McLaren.
So, I mean, I've already kind of said Pato, but I'm going to go in a different direction of a driver to watch going forward, not because I feel like he's going to be up there in the championship contention, but I just want to see how he can capitalize off after the month that he had, which was an outstanding month. And that driver is Connor Daly. Look, Connor Daly finished 4th at the Grand Prix and finished 5th at the Grand Prix and finished 6th at the Indy 500. Both of them were career high finishes for both of those races. So can he carry this momentum that he's got going? Because he does have true strong momentum right now, and carry that into Belle Isle. Look, one of Connor Daly's best races when he was kind of racing part-time, he had a really good run a couple of years back at Belle Isle when they ran a doubleheader there. Almost won. I believe that was when he was with, I think it was like a one-off with or part-time with Dale Coyne, I think. So that's a driver to really watch. Can he keep this momentum going? You know, it's always been he's a young driver. Look, he's 30 now. It's time to show that you deserve to be in this, full-time ride going forward.
I like that. Yeah, he did. I mean, you said going into the month that Connor Daly needs to have a good month, and he did, and has really capitalized on it and been really good. And so finally that brings us to who we think is going to win this weekend. Who wins the Detroit Grand Prix? And I know we've kind of been down on Scott Dixon throughout the course of this podcast. Not too bad, but just in the sense of we're bummed that he didn't, can't seem to get that second 500. I think he does get the win this weekend. I'm picking him to win at Detroit. He typically runs well there. He's got the most wins there since Detroit returned to the schedule in 2012. The last time it was a single race weekend, he won. It's been a doubleheader since 2013. So, which also on that note, Ganassi has won at least one race at Detroit the last 3 seasons. The race has been run. It was not run in 2020. So in 2018, 2019, and 2021, a Ganassi driver has won at least one of the races at Detroit. Now, granted, it was a doubleheader. If you gave me 2 races to pick, I would say Dixon would win one of them. Only has one shot this weekend at Detroit, but at some point, this winless streak, the longest, in his career, has to end at some point, and I think it happens at Detroit. I mean, we saw it last year. I remember, my championship pick was Joseph Newgarden last year. He came out of Indy 6th in the point standings, but really shot up through the field the rest of the way, had a very good second half, and I think the same can happen for Scott Dixon.
So I'm actually going to go with Pato O'Ward, because I think that fire that's burning inside him right now from being so close to winning the 500 helps him and propels him right now. And like I said, momentum's on his side as well. Things are really looking good for him. He just needs to carry that into this weekend and use that fire to push himself to win, because he needs to get another win if he's going to be seriously in championship contention.
I like it. And yeah, that, I think Pato O'Ward's a good choice too. I kind of wanted to go with him, but I was like, well, I hyped him up. I don't want to pick the same driver across the board. So, but yeah, I mean, I like that pick as well. It's going to be a good one. I think he is going to be really fun to watch the remainder of the season. And that'll do it for this week's edition of the Crash Course podcast. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Remember, you can like us on Facebook, 3C Media. Go follow us on Twitter at 3C Media Sports. Go over to the YouTube channel. Like I said, we will not be here, next weekend for a good chunk of the month of June. So make sure that you're locked in on YouTube, so that way you can see the content we've got over there. Also, content on TikTok, 3C Media, both on YouTube and TikTok. We stream live, twitch.tv/CraigCrash. Remember, you can listen to us every week at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Wherever podcasts can be heard, you can hear the Crash Course podcast. B. Scott, where can they find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon_Scott87.
And you can follow me at Crash Course FM on Twitter. Like I said, we'll be on a little bit of a hiatus. B. Scott's going to go cover the College World Series, so make sure you're following NCAA baseball on all accounts there. Go support our boy B. Scott, as he's going to go, watch a lot of baseball and have a lot of fun. So we'll be back. Like I said, just keep an eye out on the socials. for the remainder of the month of June. We'll be back in July. And that is all. Everybody have a good rest of your week.